I was staring at my wife's phone at 2:37 a.m. when my entire world collapsed into a singularity of betrayal so dense, so absolute, that I actually felt my chest constrict. The notification had lit up her screen while she slept beside me. A message from someone named Dylan that read, "Last night was incredible. When can I see you again?" My name is James Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, a senior project manager at a tech firm in Austin, Texas. I've been married to Rebecca for 9 years. We have 2 daughters, Emma, who's 7, and Lily, who's 5. Until that moment, I thought I had a good marriage. Not perfect, whose is, but solid. Real. Worth fighting for. I'd woken up to use the bathroom, and her phone was just there, face up on the nightstand. We'd never been the type to snoop through each other's devices. We had the passcodes to each other's phones, sure, but that was for emergencies or when one of us needed to check something while the other was driving. Trust, right? That foundation everyone talks about. My hand trembled as I picked up her phone. Her passcode was still Emma's birthday. 4 simple digits that suddenly felt like a betrayal in themselves. She hadn't even bothered to change it. The messages loaded, and I felt something fundamental break inside me. The conversation went back 3 months. 3 entire months. Dylan worked at her gym. He was a personal trainer she'd mentioned casually back in February. "I'm thinking of doing some sessions," she'd said over dinner one night, "just to get back in shape after the holidays." I'd encouraged her. Actually encouraged her. Told her it was a great idea, that she should invest in herself, that I'd handle bedtime with the girls on her training nights. What a fool. The messages started professionally enough. Workout schedules, nutrition advice. Then they shifted. Compliments about her form, her dedication, her body. By mid-March, they'd moved to a different app, one I had to download just to see the full extent of it. An encrypted messaging service that deleted messages after 24 hours. But Rebecca had screenshots. Lots of them. Saved in a hidden folder in her photos, buried under what looked like hundreds of random images of the kids and family dinners. I sat there in the darkness of our bedroom, the blue light from her phone casting shadows across her sleeping face, and scrolled through evidence of her affair with methodical precision. My brain had shifted into some kind of survival mode, documenting, cataloging, preparing for something I couldn't quite name yet. There were photos. Not explicit, thank God, but intimate enough. Dylan shirtless at what looked like his apartment. Rebecca in a dress I'd never seen, clearly taken in a restaurant bathroom mirror with the caption, "He says I look beautiful." The thing that gutted me most wasn't the physical betrayal, though that was devastating enough. It was the emotional intimacy, the inside jokes, the good morning and good night messages, the "I wish I could wake up next to you" texts that she sent while lying in bed next to me. She'd told him things about our marriage, about me, how I was always working, how we'd grown apart, how she needed to feel desired again. Classic affair justifications, I'd later learn, but in that moment, they felt like personalized daggers. I took my time. Methodical. Systematic. I forwarded every single message, every photo, every piece of evidence to my own email using her account. Then I checked her sent folder and deleted the forwarded emails. I took screenshots of her location history. She'd been to his apartment 17 times. Always on nights she'd told me she was meeting Kelly for dinner or doing a late training session. Kelly, her best friend since college. I made a mental note about that too. By the time I finished, it was 4:15 a.m. I'd been sitting there for nearly 90 minutes, and Rebecca hadn't stirred once. She slept peacefully, her breathing steady and calm, while I experienced what I can only describe as a complete psychological demolition. I put her phone back exactly where I'd found it and went downstairs. Our house is a 3-bedroom ranch in a good school district. We'd stretched our budget to buy it 6 years ago, right after Lily was born. Rebecca had loved the kitchen, those granite countertops and the island where we'd imagined hosting family gatherings. I'd loved the garage, big enough for a workshop I'd never actually set up because I was always too busy with work. Always working. Her words echoed in my head. I sat at that kitchen island in the dark and felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just a vast, empty numbness that I recognized as shock. My phone buzzed. A work email. Some crisis in the California office that needed attention. I stared at it, then set the phone face down on the counter. For the first time in my career, I didn't care. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood. This house where we'd brought both our daughters home from the hospital. Where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries. Where I'd kissed my wife goodbye every morning and told her I loved her. When had she stopped loving me back? Or had she ever really loved me at all? I heard movement upstairs around 6. Rebecca's alarm. The shower running. Normal morning sounds that now felt like a performance. She came down 20 minutes later, already dressed for work in business casual. She's a marketing coordinator for a healthcare company. Her hair was still damp, pulled back in that messy bun she always did when she was running late. "Morning," she said, kissing my cheek as she passed. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said. My voice sounded normal, steady. How was that possible? "Everything okay?" She was already pulling out bread for toast, not really looking at me. "Fine, just work stuff." She nodded, accepting the lie as easily as I'd accepted all of hers. I sat at my desk pretending to review quarterly reports while Rebecca worked from home in the spare bedroom we'd converted into her office. The house felt different now. Every familiar sound carried a weight it hadn't before. Her footsteps overhead. The muffled cadence of her voice on client calls. The ordinary rhythms of our life together, now a performance I couldn't stop watching. 3 days since the discovery. 72 hours of maintaining the facade. My phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Emma. Parent-teacher conference 3:30 p.m. Right, I'd completely forgotten. I knocked on Rebecca's doorframe. She looked up from her laptop, smiling that same easy smile she'd given me every day for 9 years. "Hey, don't forget Emma's conference this afternoon," I said. Her expression shifted. Just a flicker of something. Annoyance? Calculation? "Oh, shoot. I actually have a meeting with the regional director at 3. Can you handle it solo?" She tilted her head apologetically. "I know we usually go together, but this came up yesterday and—" "Sure," I said. "No problem." I wondered if there was even a meeting, or if Dylan had a 3 o'clock slot open. The thought arrived with remarkable calm. I'd discovered something about myself over the past 72 hours. I could function on autopilot while my actual thoughts operated on a completely separate track. Project manager skills, maybe? Compartmentalization. The ability to run parallel processes without either one crashing. "You're the best," Rebecca blew me a kiss. "Tell Mrs. Patterson I'm sorry I couldn't make it." Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher. Rebecca remembered her name, remembered we had the conference but had a conveniently timed conflict. The math was simple enough. I checked Rebecca's location at 3:15 p.m. from my car in the school parking lot, still showing at our house. Either she was actually working, or she'd left her phone behind. I'd learned from her message history that she sometimes did that, left her phone charging in the bedroom while she went to Dylan's place, claiming later that she'd been so focused on work, she hadn't noticed it dying. Plausible deniability. Smart, really. Mrs. Patterson greeted me in her classroom, decorated with student artwork and alphabet posters. 23 years teaching second grade, according to the certificate on her wall. "Just you today?" she asked, glancing past me toward the door. Rebecca had a work conflict. "Ah, well," Mrs. Patterson opened a folder with Emma's name on it. Let's talk about your daughter. For 20 minutes, I listened to an assessment of Emma's academic progress, her social development, her reading level, and math skills. She was doing well, excelling even. A natural leader who included everyone at recess, kind to the new students, creative in her writing assignments. You and Rebecca should be very proud, Mrs. Patterson said. Should be. Were we? Could I be proud while sitting on evidence of my wife's affair? Could I feel anything uncomplicated anymore? We are, I said, because that's what you say. There is one small thing. Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted to concern. Emma's been asking some questions lately about whether people always tell the truth, whether it's okay to keep secrets from people you love. My chest tightened. What kind of context? Nothing alarming. It came up during a discussion about a story we read, but she seemed particularly focused on it. I wondered if something at home might be prompting those thoughts. I kept my face neutral. Not that I'm aware of, but I'll talk to her. Thanks for mentioning it. Had Emma noticed something? Kids were perceptive. Maybe she'd picked up on tension I thought I'd hidden, or maybe Rebecca had been less careful than she believed. I thanked Mrs. Patterson and walked back to my car. The spring afternoon was pleasant. 75 degrees, light breeze, the kind of weather that usually made me grateful to live in Austin. Today, it felt like set dressing. Scenery for a play I hadn't auditioned for. My phone showed a text from Rebecca. How did it go? I sat in the driver's seat, staring at those 5 words. How did it go? Casual. Interested. The kind of thing a caring mother asks about her daughter's conference. Really well. Emma's doing great. Mrs. P says she's excelling. 3 dots appeared immediately, Rebecca typing. That's wonderful. I knew she would be. She's so smart. Did Mrs. P mention anything we should work on? I typed. Just to keep encouraging her reading. She's above grade level. Amazing. We'll get her some new books this weekend. We. As if we were still a team. As if this weekend we'd do normal family things together. As if she hadn't spent 17 afternoons at Dylan's apartment while I'd been at work, trusting her, believing in us. I drove to the grocery store instead of going straight home. We needed milk, bread, the usual staples. Also, I needed to not be in that house with her yet. Needed another hour of breathing room before resuming the performance. The store was quiet at 4 p.m. on a Thursday. I pushed my cart through familiar aisles, selecting items with the same methodical attention I'd brought to documenting Rebecca's messages. Whole milk for the girls. The specific brand of yogurt Lily liked. The granola bars Emma preferred for school lunches. Evidence of a life, a family. Daily routines built over years. In the checkout line, I noticed the woman ahead of me buying a single bottle of wine and a frozen dinner. She looked about my age, maybe younger. Wedding ring on her finger. I wondered what her story was. If she was happy. If her spouse was faithful. If she went home to an intact life, or if she was performing too, pretending everything was fine while the foundation crumbled. Sir, your total is $67.43. I'd missed the cashier speaking to me. Sorry, long day. She smiled sympathetically. I hear that. I loaded groceries into my car and checked Rebecca's location again. Home. Or at least, her phone was. When I walked in at 4:45, she was in the kitchen starting dinner. Chicken breasts on the counter, vegetables being chopped. She'd changed into yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts, her usual around-the-house outfit. Hey, how was the rest of your day? She looked up from dicing an onion, eyes slightly watery from the fumes. Fine, productive. I set the grocery bags on the counter. Got some stuff for the weekend. Oh, you're a lifesaver. I was just thinking we were low on milk. She kissed my cheek, casual and familiar, then returned to the cutting board. I put away groceries while she cooked. We moved around each other with practiced efficiency, 9 years of shared kitchen choreography. She hummed softly while she worked. Something from the radio, probably. She'd always been a hummer. "So I was thinking," Rebecca said, sliding chicken into a pan, "maybe we could do something fun this weekend. Take the girls to Zilker Park, make a day of it. The weather's supposed to be beautiful." "Sure, sounds good?" "Great." She seemed genuinely pleased. "We haven't done a family day in a while. It'll be nice." I watched her season the chicken, adjust the heat, move with easy confidence through a task she'd performed hundreds of times. This was Rebecca, my wife, the woman I'd married, the mother of my children. She was real and present and making dinner while planning a family outing. She was also the woman who'd spent 3 months in an affair, who'd visited Dylan's apartment 17 times, who'd taken photos I'd never been meant to see and written things about our marriage that had collapsed my understanding of our life together into something I no longer recognized. Both versions existed simultaneously. Same person, same moment, same kitchen. "Can you grab the rice from the pantry?" she asked. I retrieved it, handed it to her, watched her measure out portions into the rice cooker. "Thanks, babe." Babe, a casual endearment. Meaningless and meaningful. She'd called Dylan babe in her messages too. The word had lost specificity, or maybe it had never had any. My phone buzzed. Email notification. I glanced at the preview. Attorney consultation confirmation. Monday, April 15th, 9 a.m. I'd made the appointment yesterday during my lunch break. Found the firm through careful research. Highest ratings for family law in Austin. Reputation for aggressive advocacy. Discreet initial consultations. I wasn't sure yet what I'd do with the evidence I'd gathered. But I was preparing. Documenting. Creating options. Project management, really. Identifying risks. Developing contingency plans. Maintaining control over variables I could influence. Rebecca plated dinner while I set the table. The girls would be home from after-school care in 20 minutes. We'd eat together, discuss our days. Emma would talk about recess. Lily would probably spill something. We'd laugh. Clean up. Do bedtime routines. Normal. All of it completely normal. Except for the attorney consultation scheduled for Monday morning. Except for the evidence forwarded to my personal email. Except for everything. The Minneapolis trip wasn't supposed to end until Friday. I'd told Rebecca Thursday night, kissed her goodbye Friday morning, and driven to the airport like I had 100 times before. Except I never got on the plane. I sat in the airport parking garage for 45 minutes, engine off, watching the clock tick toward my boarding time. The ticket was refundable. I'd checked twice. The client meeting was real enough, but Jerry from accounting could handle it. I'd already forwarded him the presentation deck. What I needed was certainty. 3 days of watching Rebecca move through our house, humming while she folded laundry, laughing at something Lily said about her art teacher. It had started to feel unreal. Like maybe I'd hallucinated the entire thing. Maybe Dylan was actually just her trainer. Maybe those messages had some innocent explanation my sleep-deprived brain couldn't process. Except I knew better. I'd read those texts 50 times, memorized them. There was no innocent explanation for, "I can still taste you," or "My sheets smell like your perfume." So instead of boarding, I drove home. Took the long route through downtown, stopped at a coffee shop I'd never been to, sat there for an hour staring at nothing. The barista asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. At 2:15 p.m., I pulled into our driveway. Rebecca's car was there. She'd told me she had back-to-back meetings until 4, then had to pick up the girls from after-school care by 5:30. I'd checked her calendar that morning. It showed her blocked out all afternoon for Q2 planning session. I sat in my car for 3 minutes, watching our front door. The neighborhood was quiet. Mrs. Patterson, 2 houses down, was gardening. A delivery truck rumbled past. My hands were steady when I pulled the key from the ignition. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 different ways over the past 72 hours. Sometimes I pictured myself calm and controlled, other times screaming, throwing things. Violence I knew I'd never actually commit. But sitting there in my own driveway, I felt nothing. Just a strange, hollow curiosity about what I'd find inside. The front door was unlocked. I stepped into the entryway and saw her blouse first. Cream-colored silk, the one I'd bought her for Christmas, crumpled on the hardwood 3 feet from the door. Then his shirt, black athletic wear, the kind with moisture-wicking fabric. Her skirt, his pants. A trail of clothes leading from where I stood to the living room. I heard them before I saw them. Her voice, breathy and urgent. His deeper, murmuring something I couldn't make out. The sound of skin on skin. Our living room rug, the expensive Turkish one Rebecca had insisted we needed, the one we'd saved for 3 months to afford, rustling against the floor. I walked forward. My footsteps were silent on the hardwood. Some distant part of my brain noted that I should feel something. Rage, heartbreak, nausea. Instead, I felt like I was watching myself from very far away. They were tangled together on the rug, her back arched, his hands in her hair. Neither of them heard me. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating everything in sharp, brutal detail. I reached for the light switch and flipped on every lamp in the room. "Dylan." My voice came out level, almost conversational. Rebecca's head snapped toward me, eyes wide, mouth open in a perfect O of shock. Dylan scrambled backward, grabbing for something to cover himself. She made a sound, half gasp, half choke, and snatched at the throw blanket from the couch. "James, oh my God, James, you're not supposed to." I walked to the mantel where we kept the old Polaroid camera, the one Rebecca's mother had given us as a wedding gift. We'd used it exactly twice, once at Emma's first birthday, once at Lily's. The film was probably expired, but I loaded it anyway. "Don't move." The flash went off. Dylan had managed to get partially behind the couch, but his face was visible, frozen in horror. Rebecca was clutching the blanket to her chest, hair wild, lipstick smeared. "James, please." Flash. Another photo. This one caught them both. The scattered clothes, the rumpled rug, the wine glasses on the coffee table I hadn't noticed before. "Stop! James, stop!" Flash. Dylan found his voice. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble." "Then you shouldn't have been screwing my wife in my house." I lowered the camera. 3 photos were developing on the mantel, that chemical smell filling the room. "Get dressed." "James," Rebecca's voice cracked. Can we talk about this?" I said, "Get dressed." I looked at Dylan. "Actually, you stay right there." I walked to the garage, my movements mechanical. Found the zip ties I used for cable management, the heavy-duty ones rated for 50 pounds. Grabbed 4 of them. When I came back, Dylan had pulled on his underwear. Rebecca was in her bra and skirt, still clutching the blanket, mascara running down her face. "Take those off," I told Dylan. "What?" "You heard me." "Dude, I'm not—" I stepped closer. I had 3 inches and 30 pounds on him, despite all his personal training sessions. "You were comfortable enough naked in my house 5 minutes ago. Take them off." Rebecca was crying now, full sobs. "James, please, this is insane." Dylan's underwear hit the floor. I zip-tied his wrists together in front of him. He didn't resist, probably realized that struggling would make this worse. Then I opened the front door and shoved him onto the porch. "Wait, man, you can't—" I threw his clothes after him. They landed in the driveway, scattered across the concrete. His shoes hit the mailbox. "You have 30 seconds to get off my property before I call the police and report a break-in." "This is assault." I could press charges. With what evidence? You going to explain to the cops why you were in my house? I pulled out my phone. 20 seconds. He ran, naked except for the zip ties, sprinting down our street toward where his car must have been parked. Mrs. Patterson stopped gardening to stare. I closed the door. Rebecca was standing in the living room, fully dressed now, shaking. You can't just... That's illegal. So is trespassing. I walked past her to our bedroom, to her dresser. Third drawer down, the one with the little lock she thought I didn't have the key to. I'd found it 2 months ago while looking for batteries. Hadn't thought anything of it at the time. I dumped the entire drawer into my arms. Lace and silk and things I'd never seen her wear for me. Carried it all downstairs to the fireplace. James, no. I had the fire going in 90 seconds. The lingerie went in piece by piece. The smell was acrid, synthetic fabrics melting and curling. Stop it! Stop it! Rebecca was screaming now, trying to grab my arm. I shrugged her off. The last piece was red. Sheer, with ribbons. I'd seen it in one of Dylan's photos, the ones he'd sent her with comments about how he couldn't wait to take it off her. I held it up so she could see it, then dropped it into the flames. Get out. This is my house, too. Actually, it's in my name. You wanted me to handle the mortgage, remember? Less paperwork for you. I pulled the key ring from my pocket, started removing her house key. You have 10 minutes to pack a bag, then I'm changing the locks. You can't kick me out. I have rights. The girls are at after-school care until 5:30. You have 9 minutes now. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe I'd never let her see this part of me, the part that could be cold and methodical and absolutely certain. I love you, she whispered. 8 minutes. She ran upstairs. I heard drawers slamming, hangers scraping. I sat on the couch, not the rug. I'd never touch that rug again, and waited. She came down with a duffel bag, eyes red, hands shaking. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. James, please, we can fix this. Counseling, whatever you want. 6 minutes. She left. The door slammed behind her. I called the locksmith. He could be there in 45 minutes. Then I called my attorney, the one I'd consulted Monday. I need to move forward with the divorce. Immediately. What happened? I have photographs, and I need to discuss custody arrangements before I pick up my daughters in 2 hours. My voice didn't shake once. The locksmith arrived 40 minutes later, a wiry guy named Tom, who didn't ask questions when he saw the scattered clothes still littering the floor. I'd tossed them into a garbage bag while waiting, but the living room still looked like a crime scene, which I supposed it was. Evidence of destruction anyway. Standard deadbolt and knob replacement? Tom asked, already pulling tools from his van. Yes, and I need it done fast. He quoted me $200. I didn't negotiate. While Tom worked on the front door, I called my attorney. Straight to voicemail. It was barely 8:30 on a Thursday morning. I left a message with the key facts. Caught them in the act, photographic evidence, Dylan removed from premises, Rebecca given notice to vacate. My voice sounded remarkably steady. Clinical, even. Like I was reporting project metrics instead of the implosion of my marriage. The back door took Tom another 20 minutes. New keys clinked onto my kitchen counter at 9:17 a.m. The sound felt final. You want the old locks? Tom asked. No. He packed them anyway, probably standard procedure, and left me standing in a house that was legally mine but felt like a museum. Everything here. The couch where we'd watched Netflix with the girls, the kitchen table where Emma practiced spelling words, the refrigerator covered in their crayon drawings. All of it was contaminated now. Tainted by what I'd seen. I couldn't think about that. Not yet. Emma and Lily. I needed to focus on Emma and Lily. I called the elementary school office at 9:30. The receptionist, Mrs. Patterson, knew me from volunteering at the fall festival. "Hi, this is James Whitmore, Emma Whitmore's father. I need to arrange early pickup today for both Emma and her sister Lily." "Oh, is everything all right?" Concern in her voice. Small-town school energy, even in Austin suburbs. "Family situation. I'll be there at 2:30. I'll make a note. They'll be ready in the office." I hung up before she could probe further. 2:30 gave me 5 hours. 5 hours to figure out what the hell I was going to tell two little girls about why mommy wasn't coming home tonight. Why daddy looked like he'd aged 10 years since breakfast yesterday. Why everything was about to change. My phone buzzed. Rebecca. "James. Please, we need to talk." I stared at the message, watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. "I know you're angry, but please don't do this. The house is mine too. You can't just lock me out." Actually, I could. The deed was solely in my name. We'd done it that way because her credit score had been trashed by student loans when we bought the place. She'd been grateful then, relieved. "One less thing to worry about," she'd said. Funny how these details mattered now. "I'm coming back tonight. We need to discuss this like adults." I typed back, "Locks are changed. Divorce papers being filed today. All communication goes through attorneys from this point forward. Send, block contact." The silence that followed felt like falling. I walked through the house methodically, room by room, cataloging what was hers, what was mine, what belonged to the girls. Rebecca's clothes still hung in our closet. Former closet, I corrected myself. Her toiletries lined the bathroom counter. Her laptop sat on the desk in the spare bedroom she used as a home office. I didn't touch any of it. Evidence. All of it was evidence. In Emma's room, I found the drawing she'd made last week. Our family as stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. Emma had given herself pigtails and Lily a princess crown. Rebecca and I stood on either side, oversized and protective. The sky was aggressively blue, the grass violently green. The proportions of childhood certainty. I sat on Emma's bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and chapter books, and felt something crack in my chest. Not now. I couldn't break now. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. "Mr. Whitmore, this is Officer Janet Reeves with Austin PD. We received a call about an incident at your residence this morning." My stomach dropped. Dylan. The bastard had actually called the police. "Yes?" The caller alleged assault and unlawful restraint. "I need to ask you some questions about what happened this morning around 7 a.m. I took a breath, steadied myself. I returned home early from a business trip and found my wife with another man in my house. I asked him to leave. He left. The caller states you physically restrained him and forced him outside without clothing. I used zip ties to secure his wrists after he became aggressive. Then I escorted him out of my home, my property, where he was trespassing." Silence on the line. I could hear typing. "Did you strike him at any point?" "No." "Did he sustain any injuries?" "Not from me." More typing. "And the photographs the caller mentioned?" "I documented the scene I discovered in my own home. Is that illegal?" Officer Reeves sighed. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to be straight with you. This is a domestic situation that's going to get messy. The caller is reluctant to pursue charges, but his girlfriend is pushing him to file a report." His girlfriend. Dylan had a girlfriend. Of course he did. "I have photographic evidence of 2 people engaged in intimate activity in my living room," I said. "In my house, without my knowledge or consent." I removed the trespasser. If he wants to press charges for that, he's welcome to explain to a judge why he was there in the first place. "I understand you're upset. I'm documenting everything, officer. Timestamps, photographs, messages. If Dylan wants to make this official, we can make it very official." Another pause. "I'll note your statement. If he does decide to file charges, someone will be in touch. Otherwise, I'd suggest you let your divorce attorney handle things from here. Already on it. She hung up. I checked the time. 10:47 a.m. 3 hours and 43 minutes until I picked up my daughters and told them their world was ending. I couldn't do it alone. I called my sister, Michelle, in Denver. She answered on the second ring. James? What's wrong? Apparently, I sounded as wrecked as I felt. Rebecca cheated. I caught them this morning. I need help with the girls. Oh my God, James. Can you fly out? Today or tomorrow? I need someone here who they trust. Someone who isn't me because I can barely hold it together right now. I'm booking a flight right now. Hold on. I heard clicking, Michelle's fingers flying across a keyboard. There's a 2:15 that gets in at 5:30 your time. I'll be on it. Thank you. Have you told Emma and Lily yet? Picking them up at 2:30. I don't know what to say. The truth, Michelle said quietly. Age appropriate, but the truth. They'll know if you lie. The truth is their mother destroyed our family for a personal trainer. The truth is mommy and daddy aren't going to live together anymore, but both of you still love them very much. I wanted to vomit. James, breathe. I can hear you spiraling. I was standing in Emma's room, still holding her drawing. Our stick figure family, so happy under that crayon sun. I don't know how to do this, I said. You do it 1 minute at a time. You pick them up. You take them somewhere neutral, not the house. Maybe that park they love. You tell them together. You answer their questions. You don't badmouth Rebecca, no matter how much you want to, and you let them cry. What if they ask why? You say sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. You say it's not their fault. You say it 1,000 times if you have to, because they'll need to hear it. I close my eyes. Okay. I'll be there by dinner. We'll figure this out together. After we hung up, I sat in Emma's room for another 20 minutes, trying to assemble myself into something resembling a functional father. The house was too quiet. Every sound, the AC kicking on, a car passing outside, the settling of wood, felt amplified. At 2:15, I grabbed my keys. The new ones, still shiny and unmarked. Time to go get my daughters and break their hearts. The park was 7 minutes from Oakwood Elementary. I chose Riverside Commons because it had a playground the girls loved, the kind with the tall spiral slide and the swings that went high enough to make their stomachs flip. Michelle was already there when we arrived, sitting at a picnic table beneath a massive oak tree, her rental car visible in the lot behind her. Uncle Shell, Lily bolted from the back seat before I'd fully parked, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Emma moved slower, watching me with those careful eyes. She'd been quiet during the drive, answering my questions about school with single words. Yes? Fine? Nothing. Michelle caught Lily in a hug, then pulled Emma in too. My sister looked tired. The flight from Denver had landed at noon, and she'd driven straight here. But her smile was genuine as she ruffled Emma's hair. How about you two hit the playground for a bit, Michelle suggested. Your dad and I need to talk about some grown-up stuff, and then we'll all sit down together. Lily was already running toward the swings. Emma hesitated, glancing between us. Go ahead, sweetie, I said. We'll call you over in a few minutes. She nodded and followed her sister, but kept looking back. I sat across from Michelle at the weathered picnic table. The afternoon sun filtered through the oak leaves, creating patterns on the wood grain. A few other families dotted the park. A mom pushing a toddler on the merry-go-round, 2 teenagers throwing a frisbee near the basketball courts. You look like hell, Michelle said. Thanks. I mean it, James. When's the last time you slept? I couldn't remember. Tuesday night, maybe? Before I'd come home early. Before everything became real instead of just evidence in my email inbox. Doesn't matter. I need to focus on the girls. You can't pour from an empty cup. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. What did your attorney say about custody? Filed for full custody this morning. Rebecca hasn't responded to the divorce papers yet. She's got 30 days. But given the circumstances, given the documentation, he thinks we're in a strong position. I watched Emma push Lily on the swings, her small hands careful and deliberate. She abandoned them, left without asking about them once. Where is she now? I don't know, don't care. That wasn't entirely true. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 9 years, that had built a life with her, wondered if she was safe. But that part was getting smaller by the hour. Her phone's been going straight to voicemail. She hasn't tried to contact me except through her attorney. She got one already. Apparently. I pulled out my phone, showed Michelle the email that had arrived at 10:23 a.m. Brief, formal, requesting I cease all harassment and communicate only through legal counsel, as if I'd been the one harassing anyone. Guy named Preston Walsh, works for some firm downtown. Michelle scanned the email, her jaw tightening. Harassment? That's rich. Yeah. We sat in silence for a moment. A breeze rustled the oak leaves overhead. Lily's laughter carried across the playground as she jumped from the swing, landing in the mulch with both feet. How do you want to do this? Michelle asked. I'd been rehearsing it in my head since I'd called her yesterday. Keep it simple, age-appropriate. Don't badmouth their mother, no matter how much she deserves it. The girls needed stability, not poison. I tell them Mom and I are getting divorced, that she's going to live somewhere else, that it's not their fault, that we both love them, that some things are going to change but they'll still have both of us. You're going to lie to them. I looked at my sister. What? The part about both of you loving them, about them still having both of you. Her voice was gentle but firm. James, she walked away. She didn't ask to see them. She didn't fight to stay. You're setting them up to wait for someone who might not show up. She's still their mother. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Showing up does. Michelle glanced toward the playground. Emma had joined Lily on the swings now, pumping her legs to gain height. I'm not saying trash her. I'm saying don't make promises you can't keep on her behalf. She was right. I hated that she was right. Okay, I said. So I tell them we're getting divorced, that things are changing, that I'm here for them no matter what, and that I'm staying for a while to help out. You don't have to, James. She cut me off. I already talked to my boss. I can work remotely for the next 2 weeks, longer if needed. You need help. The girls need stability. Let me do this. My throat tightened. I'd been holding everything together through sheer force of will, but having Michelle here, having someone in my corner who wasn't billing me by the hour, made something in my chest crack open just slightly. Thank you, I managed. She squeezed my hand again. Ready? No. Yeah. We called the girls over. They came running, Lily chattering about how high she'd swung, Emma quiet again. They climbed onto the bench beside Michelle, and I stayed on my side of the table, facing them. This was it. The moment that would split their childhood into before and after. Girls, I need to talk to you about something important. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. You know how sometimes grown-ups have problems they can't fix? Emma's eyes went wide. Lily stopped swinging her legs. Your mom and I, we're not going to be married anymore. We're getting divorced. Like Sophia's parents? Lily asked. Her best friend's parents had split up last year. Yes, like that. Is it because of the secrets? Emma's voice was barely audible. I felt Michelle's sharp glance, but I kept my focus on Emma. What secrets, sweetie? Mom told me not to tell you about her friend. She said it would make you sad. Emma's eyes were filling with tears. I didn't want to make you sad, Daddy. The world tilted. Rebecca had involved Emma, had made our 7-year-old daughter complicit in the affair, had weaponized her love and trust. I moved around the table, knelt in front of Emma, took her small hands in mine. Emma, listen to me. None of this, none of it, is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and those choices have nothing to do with kids. Do you understand? She nodded, but tears were streaming down her face now. Are you sad, Daddy? Lily asked, her voice small. Yeah, kiddo, I'm sad. But I'm going to be okay, and you're going to be okay, and we're all going to figure this out together. Where's Mom going to live? Emma wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I don't know yet, but you're staying here with me, in your house, with your rooms and your stuff and your school. Do we still get to see her? Lily asked. Here it was, the minefield Michelle had warned me about. Your mom loves you, I said, choosing each word carefully. And I hope you'll get to see her. But I don't know exactly what that will look like yet. What I do know is that I'm here, and Aunt Shell is staying with us for a while, and no matter what happens, you two are my priority. Always. Emma launched herself at me, wrapping her arms around my neck. Lily followed a second later, and I held them both, kneeling in the mulch beside the picnic table while they cried. Michelle's hand rested on my shoulder. We stayed like that for a long time. The sun shifted lower in the sky. The other families packed up and left. The park grew quieter. Eventually, Lily pulled back, wiping her nose. Can we still have pizza night on Fridays? Absolutely. And you'll still help me with my science project? Emma asked. Wouldn't miss it. They seemed to accept this, the way kids do, not understanding the full weight of it yet, but trusting that the adults would handle the incomprehensible parts. We'd have this conversation again, I knew. Many times in different ways, as they grew older and understood more. But for now, this was enough. We walked back to the cars as the streetlights began flickering on. Michelle drove the girls home in my car while I followed in her rental, giving them space to ask her questions they might not want to ask me. My phone buzzed twice during the drive, both times from numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. At home, Michelle made grilled cheese sandwiches while I helped the girls with homework at the kitchen table. Normal, routine. The kind of evening we'd had 1,000 times before, except Rebecca's chair sat empty and nobody mentioned it. My phone buzzed again at 7:43 p.m. This time, I looked. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Starbucks on West 6th. Come alone. R. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. If Rebecca wanted to talk, she could do it through her attorney. The coffee shop Rebecca chose was one of those aggressively neutral spaces. Beige walls, generic landscape prints, the kind of place designed for difficult conversations. I arrived 15 minutes early and positioned myself at a corner table with clear sightlines to both entrances. Old habits from business negotiations. Control the environment, control the outcome. She walked in at exactly 2:00 p.m. Punctual, at least. That was new. Rebecca looked smaller somehow. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and a plain gray sweater I didn't recognize. She spotted me and hesitated for just a fraction of a second before walking over. No coffee order. She wasn't planning to stay long. James? She sat down across from me, hands folded on the table. You have 20 minutes. I kept my voice level, professional. The same tone I used with vendors who'd missed deadlines. I want to see Emma and Lily. No, her jaw tightened. They're my daughters. You should have thought about that before you involved Emma in your affair. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, and set it on the table between us. This conversation is being recorded for the custody proceedings. She stared at the phone, then at me. You've really thought of everything, haven't you? One of us had to think about our family, That landed. I watched her flinch, watched her eyes drop to the table. Good. I wanted her to feel every word. I never meant for Emma to... She stopped, swallowed. I didn't tell her anything. She saw Dylan drop me off one time, after my car was in the shop. I told her he was a friend from the gym and asked her not to mention it because you got weird about me having male friends. The audacity of it. Turning my reasonable boundaries into paranoia, manipulating our 7-year-old daughter to cover her tracks. My attorney will want that in writing, I said. What else did you tell her? Nothing. I swear, James, I never... Your word means nothing to me anymore. I leaned forward slightly. Emma told me you made her keep secrets, multiple secrets. So either you're lying now, or you were lying then. Which is it? Rebecca's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table. There were a few times, when I was texting and she asked who I was talking to. I said it was a surprise for you and she needed to keep it secret. Christ, how many layers of deception had she built? How many times had she looked our daughter in the eye and taught her that lying was acceptable, that keeping secrets from family was normal? You used our child as cover for your affair. I kept my voice steady, clinical. Facts, not emotions. You made her complicit. Do you understand what that does to a kid? I was trying to protect her from what? The consequences of your choices? I picked up my coffee, took a sip. Gave myself 3 seconds to breathe. You don't get to play victim here, Rebecca. You made every single choice that led to this. She was crying now. Silent tears tracking down her cheeks. Once upon a time, that would have broken me. I'd have reached across the table, taken her hand, asked what was wrong and how I could fix it. Now I just watched, documented, waited. Where are you staying? I asked. With Jenna, from work. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Her couch. Not a shelter, then. That was one detail from my mental script that didn't match reality. And Dylan? Her face hardened. What about him? His girlfriend contacted my attorney. Apparently, she's very interested in pressing charges on his behalf. Unlawful restraint, assault, something about emotional distress. I smiled without humor. Funny how he never mentioned having a girlfriend to you, isn't it? The color drained from her face. He doesn't... We're not... Oh, Rebecca. I shook my head. You really thought you were special to him. You were a client with low self-esteem and a wedding ring. You think you're the first married woman he's slept with? Stop, her voice cracked. Just stop. Did he tell you he loved you? I pressed. Cruelty felt good, felt clean, like lancing a wound. Did he say he'd leave her for you? That you two would build something real once you got rid of your boring husband? We never talked about, I wasn't going to leave you. I was going to end it. I laughed. Actually laughed. When? After the next hotel visit? After the next time you let him into our house, our bed? I leaned back, crossed my arms. I saw the location history, Rebecca. 17 times at his apartment. How many times was he here? She didn't answer. How many times? My voice went cold. Twice. Barely a whisper. You were traveling. The girls were at your mom's. 2 times. She'd brought him into our home, into our bed, while I was working to support our family. While I was trusting her with everything that mattered. I want a list, I said. Every time, every place, every lie you told me to cover it. My attorney needs a complete timeline for the custody filing. You're really going to try to take them from me completely? You took yourself from them when you decided an affair was more important than being their mother. I stood up, pushed my chair in. You have until Friday to provide that timeline. After that, we proceed with what we have, and I promise you, it's enough. James, please. She reached across the table, tried to grab my hand. I stepped back. Don't touch me. I made a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. But I love you. I love our girls. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. What I need is for you to have been faithful. I picked up my phone, stopped the recording. What I need is to not have caught you having sex with another man on our living room floor. What I need is for our daughter to not have been turned into your accomplice. It was one time, in the house. Just once, I swear. And that's supposed to make it better? I stared at her. This woman I'd spent 9 years with, who I'd built a life with, who I didn't recognize anymore. You're not the person I married. Maybe you never were. I turned to leave. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stopped, hand on the back of my chair, but didn't turn around. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, James. I took a test yesterday. My mind went into overdrive, calculating dates, running probabilities. 8 weeks, 2 months. The affair had been going on for 3 months. The math was, is it mine? The question tasted like ash. I don't know. At least she was honest about that. Small mercies. I turned around slowly. She was still sitting there, hands wrapped around her middle, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Waiting for… what? Forgiveness? Understanding? For me to suddenly decide that a pregnancy changed the fundamental betrayal? Get a paternity test, I said. As soon as it's safe. Until then, my attorney will be in touch about supervised visitation with the girls. Don't contact me directly again. James, we're done here. I walked out into the parking lot, got into my car, drove 3 blocks before I had to pull over. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the steering wheel. Pregnant. She might be pregnant with another man's child. Or she might be pregnant with mine, conceived while she was actively sleeping with someone else. The clinical detachment I'd maintained through the entire conversation shattered. I gripped the steering wheel and let myself feel it. The rage, the betrayal, the absolute destruction of every future I'd imagined. Another child. We'd talked about having a third. She'd said she wasn't ready, that 2 was enough. Apparently, she'd been ready. Just not with me. My phone buzzed. Michelle. How did it go? I stared at the message. How did I even begin to answer that? She's pregnant, doesn't know if it's mine. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, come over. Don't be alone right now. But I wanted to be alone. Needed to be alone. Needed to sit in my car in a random parking lot and process the fact that my life had just imploded again. Deeper this time, in ways I hadn't even imagined possible. Instead, I put the car in drive and headed to Michelle's hotel. Because she was right. Some things you shouldn't face alone. The paternity test came back on a Tuesday, 3 months after that coffee shop meeting. Michelle was still staying with us. She'd extended her remote work arrangement indefinitely, taken over the guest room, become the steady presence the girls needed while I navigated the legal destruction of my marriage. I opened the email from the lab while sitting in my car outside Emma's school, waiting for pickup. Clinical language, percentages, genetic markers. The conclusion was buried in the 3rd paragraph. 0% probability of paternity. Not mine. I sat there staring at my phone screen until another parent tapped on my window, asking if I was okay. I nodded, waved them off, and went inside to get my daughters. Rebecca terminated the pregnancy 2 weeks later. Her attorney informed mine via email. No explanation, no discussion. Just a fact, delivered like a weather report. I felt nothing about it. That should have worried me. The complete absence of emotion about something that would have devastated me a year ago. But grief has a funny way of burning through you until there's nothing left but scar tissue. The divorce was finalized on a gray morning in November, 8 months after I'd caught them. Rebecca didn't contest custody after the evidence came out. The messages, the photographs, Emma's testimony about the secrets. Her attorney advised her that fighting would only make things worse, cost more money she didn't have, and likely result in even more restricted access to the girls. She got supervised visitation every other Saturday, 2 hours at a time, at a facility designed for exactly these situations. Cheerful murals on the walls, toys scattered across industrial carpet, and a social worker taking notes in the corner. Emma went dutifully. Lily cried every time. After 3 months, Rebecca stopped showing up consistently. Work conflicts, she said. Car trouble. A stomach bug. The excuses piled up until the girls stopped asking when they'd see her next. Dylan's girlfriend pressed charges after all. The case was dismissed. Turned out you can't claim assault when you're trespassing and committing adultery. But the complaint was public record, and his gym fired him quietly. Last I heard, he'd moved to Phoenix. I didn't follow up. Rebecca moved to Houston 6 months after the divorce, chasing some marketing job that promised a fresh start. The girls video called her on Sundays, awkward 15-minute conversations where she asked about school and they gave one-word answers. Sometimes she remembered. Sometimes she didn't. Michelle stayed for a year before moving back to Denver, but she visited every month. The girls called her Aunt Shell and drew pictures of her that went on the refrigerator beside their other artwork. She'd stepped into the gap Rebecca left, not as a replacement mother, but as proof that family could be chosen, built, earned through showing up. I sold the house 18 months after everything fell apart. Couldn't stand living in those rooms anymore, walking past that living room rug I'd eventually thrown away. We moved to a smaller place across town. 3 bedrooms, a yard big enough for a swing set, no ghosts in the walls. Emma's in 4th grade now. She's in therapy, working through trust issues and the complicated feelings about her mother's absence. Her therapist says she's resilient. I think she's just learned to hide the hurt, the way kids do. But she laughs more than she did that first year. That counts for something. Lily still asks sometimes why Mommy left. I tell her the truth, age-appropriate and gentle, that sometimes people make choices that hurt the people they love, and those choices have consequences. That her mother's decisions weren't about her, weren't her fault, weren't something she could have prevented. I don't know if she believes me, but I keep saying it anyway. As for me, I learned that betrayal doesn't kill you, even when you think it might. It reshapes you, strips away the parts of yourself you thought were essential, and forces you to rebuild from whatever's left. I'm not the same person I was that night I found the messages. That version of James died on our living room floor along with the marriage. This version is harder, more careful, less willing to trust blindly or assume good faith. My attorney says I have trust issues now. I tell him they're pattern recognition. But this version also knows what matters. It's not the house or the marriage certificate or the picture-perfect family I thought I'd built. It's the 2 girls who run to hug me when I pick them up from school. It's the homework sessions at the kitchen table and the Friday pizza nights we never missed. It's showing up every single day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. People ask if I've started dating again. I haven't. Maybe someday. Right now, I'm focused on being the parent my daughters deserve. The one who stayed, who chose them, who proved that love isn't just a word you say, but a commitment you honor. Rebecca taught me what betrayal looks like. Emma and Lily are teaching me what loyalty means. I'll take that trade. If there's a moral to this story, it's this. You can't control other people's choices, only your response to them. You can't prevent betrayal, but you can decide it won't define you. And sometimes the family you fight for isn't the one you started with. It's the one you build from the wreckage, piece by piece, day by day, with the people who chose to stay. The girls are calling me. Lily needs help with her math homework, and Emma wants to show me something she drew at school. Normal things. Beautiful things. The kind of things that matter when everything else falls apart. I close my laptop and go to them. Because in the end, That's what survives. Not the marriage, not the betrayal, not the anger or the grief, just love. And the choice to keep showing up for it every single day.